So we're going to look at Jacob DeGrom's pitching motion. And the three things we're really going to look at are the hip hinge, his direction, and then scapular retraction and what the benefits of it and why it's really important. All right, so we'll go back to the beginning. These won't be synced up because the frame rates are different. So the side view moves a lot faster than the top view. All right, so we'll start with the hip hinge, and you can see it better on the side view. So what we'll start with, we'll get to the leg lift, the top of leg lift, mark the hip level. And then we're going to get to the bottom of the hinge, and then we'll talk about how it happens. And we'll mark the bottom of the hinge. So what does all this mean? During his move forward from this green line to this green line, he is also dropping and hinging at the hip from this green line to this green line. Okay. And what that does is it allows him to go downhill. Okay. He's letting gravity take him down, but he's also going forward at the same time. And that's what's creating momentum. All right. So go back to the top of it right there. And then frame by frame, he gets down here. All right, and this is the end of it because from this frame, pay attention to his knee. His knee is not flexing anymore, it's starting to extend. All right. Some guys push linearly, some guys just rotate. All right. He's more of a, I don't think he's pushing. All right. You'd have to ask him. Let's go look at the hinge on the top view because you can still see it. It's just a different angle. All right. So let's go through it. We'll actually play it. All right, I want you to pay attention to his knee flexion during the hinge. Right, the toe. We're going to go on the toe and on the heel to see how the knee flexes. It moves above the foot from heel to toe, and that's as it actually flexes as well. So it goes here to there, and then the knee shoots out over the toe. Okay, and you get blocked by the front leg, but you can see now that his knee is over his toe. Okay, and he is at a more of a flexed angle. All right, it'd be tough to measure exactly that angle. We'd have to see it from the back to get the hip to knee to ankle. But you can see he doesn't. He's dropping at the hips and he's flexing at the knee, but he's still straight up and down, and that's what you commonly hear stacked. Okay, it's just a very balanced drop on the back leg, and that's why single leg work, single leg eccentric work is good for pitchers, and it's controlling your body weight coming down. All right, and let's move a little bit more forward. Okay, and we'll try to get to the point before he starts to extend that knee. Okay, right about here. Go back because we lose it. Right there. Okay, we know he's extending there. So let's go back and look at what that might look like on the side view. Okay, so you can see at the end of his hinge, there's pressure in his foot. Okay, his shoe is all bent up. Right there, you can see it, it's bent. And then it starts to unwind and look normal again, or you can say it looks like it's driving. Okay. What happens here is the leg can only go so far, it's only so long. So he is at the furthest extension that he could be at. All right. Whether he's actively pushing forward or not, he has no more length in his leg. So the only thing it can do is turn and it rotates down. All right. And and you can see it finishes that down rotation in this next frame. But that's what it starts the rotational acceleration of the body. Okay. That downward move of the back leg flicks the hips open. So if you pay attention here, and then we'll do it in unison with the on the left first. Okay, weight has entered his front leg, and in this next frame, his hip is gonna flick open. All right, that's going from a slight degree of open at foot plant, and then whenever force hits the ground in the leg, it kicks that hip all further open. And you can see it on the front, on the top angle, right there. Okay. And then the inertia, the acceleration of his body starts to bring him forward around that established leg. That leg is now a balance point for him to rotate around and accelerate through. All right. So now let's go to direction. You can't really see direction on the side view because you're not in line with the catcher, and that's ultimately your direction, your target. So we'll fade out of that one for now. Okay, so ultimately your direction is your path to the catcher. You have a center of mass. Okay, it's all of you centered around one point. So you kind of track that towards the catcher and see where that goes. All right. Often you'll see bad direction. Somebody will go this way, and then they have to come back out that way to get to the catcher. And the straighter, the more direct you are, the better the direction is. So we'll look at two things. We'll measure the balls of his feet. All right. And then we'll take his head as well and put them together. That'll be his direction. All right, play it and see if we're on. Okay, cool. We're on. Yep, we're on. And you saw a slight move out with the ball cap. Okay, that has to happen. You're not going to stay directly on that line. You're going to sway slightly. Okay, you're not going to be perfectly on. So you can see he didn't come off far, which is good. That's basically your direction. The longer your head stays on that line, the better it will, the more balanced you are. Okay. If you're standing on one leg and you're leaning all over the place, you're not very balanced. But if your head stays here, you're fairly balanced. Okay. But moving and rotating at the same time and keeping balance, a lot going on. All right. So let's click through it. Ultimately, you're moving in a linear direction, but what creates the power and creates all the velocity and all the spin and everything is the rotational aspects of your hip shoulders, and then the finishing piece with your hand. So pay attention to the shoulders here. If I draw a line on the shoulders, they're facing maybe the dugout, maybe somewhere up the third baseline behind a right-handed batter. but his ultimate direction is straight towards the catcher. Okay. And you can see his hips are roughly right towards the catcher. All right. So it's this when people talk about staying close, you're keeping your shoulder to the right of your target. Yeah, right of your target for righty, left of your target for left. So you can just see how the angles of your you're pointed at different directions with your hips and your shoulders. So you're rotating around your spine as you're moving in one direction. You can see like your shoulders are pointed here, and then his hips are pointed here, and this one is plate. Okay, that's the important one. So you can see that there's a why kids have so much trouble with direction is because it's you're falling, you're trying to accelerate, you're trying to climb up your arms, you're trying to do a lot, and it takes strength, it takes mobility. If you tried to get into this position, a lot of people would not be able to because they have a tight groin, and they wouldn't be able to externally rotate their right leg that much. Okay, so that's where mobility comes in. There's a lot that goes into keeping good direction, and the the movements that happen around it are kind of they're tough. So in a scapular retraction, because it's one way to help direction. All right, if your arm is in the right spot and when it's retracted, it's up against your spine as much as it can be. And that's what that keeps the center of mass tight together, and that's what allows it to move forward in a single direction, not wobble all over the place. All right, if your arm is back here, if your elbow's back here as it's flipping up, okay, that's impacting your balance. And a lot of times that will kick your front shoulder open early because that's how your body has to balance. All right. Your belly button's 2 feet in front of your back foot, and you're rotating and you're trying to accelerate. Keeping all of that together takes a lot of strength, and that's why training is so important. So scapular retraction, okay, is the scap. If this is the spine, the scapular gets sucked into here, and it's close to the spine, and then the shoulder comes back, and then it's in a really stable position. So that's why the arm can move freely. All right, and that's why it's important for flipping up. All right, if your scapula is protracted and you're trying to flip your arm up, there's a lot more. It's not in a really stable state, so your body's not going to let it come up as fast. All right, because there's a lot of friction and all that stuff going on. All right, so let's put an angle on his shoulders and his elbow. So what this angle means is just if this is 180 degrees, that's a straight line. So he is retracted 38 degrees. Okay. And I think 30 to 40 is the optimal. But what this allows him to do, and you can see it in the left side better. Watch the path of the arm right here. It gets the parallel, it's accelerating up. Okay. It's getting to a stable position where it's here like this. Okay. The ball is weightless. The hand is weightless because the forearm is stabilizing it. All right. And now we'll get rid of this. You can see as the chest starts to accelerate, behind the spine, and that's creating stretcher on your chest, and ultimately what creates the acceleration of the arm. All right, and you'll see that start here, and this is what creates the layback. All right, you see the hand starts to drop because the chest is starting to pull the shoulder through. All right, but because the ball is weightless after this 90 position, all the ball does is drop. And that's what drives the layback position. Shown here. All right. And that almost parallel with the ground is what creates torque coming back up. And that's where all the stress is in the arm. But it's also what it can be what makes you throw hard. If you draw a straight line through his chest right here, all right, his arms are really far behind it. And then back here, if you draw, we'll take that same line and draw it straight through his chest. And you can see that his shoulders are back to it. Right? They go from stretched back to even and straight. And then that's when the energy transfers to the arm to the hand to release. At the end of all is this deceleration process and getting a good turn of the shoulders and allowing the arm to decelerate. All right. If you want your shoulders to be pointing at the target, okay, to fully decelerate, a lot of times you'll see guys, their shoulders are like this. That doesn't give the arm a ton of time to decelerate and can speed up the time to injury. All right, so we'll just go back through it quickly. You got the hip hinge, top of leg lift, and bottom of the hinge, bottom of the hinge. Okay, you can see where his arm is right here. It's still closed. And then direction, ultimately, you're rotating around that linear path of the catcher, keeping your shoulder closed, and your hip is going to be pointed towards the target, and then into landing is going to start to open up, and then landing pushes it open. And then scapular retraction is what allows your arm to accelerate from internally rotated to externally rotated and allows it to be accelerated towards your release. And that's why that is really important. The pitching motion is complex, but those are three aspects of it that play a big role.